Welcome back, fans. Uh, Carl Briggs, 73 Live Night Talk. What up? Well, here we go. Uh, it's a whole lot going on in the world today, and I had a friend call me, and one of the things he expressed to me was the footage of the officers arresting 13, maybe 12-year-old young man. Now, I've looked at some of the footage and I'll express my opinion on that later on in the segment. However, uh, my friend, he asked me, he said, man, how? So I got a son. He had a son that age, right? And for anybody, right, how would you explain, sit your son down and explain the circumstances surrounded around with all given, right, officers behaving in that fashion with that little kid. And this one is going to be kind of tough, right? But one thing I will say is how insensitive of the media to even release that footage for kids to even be able to see that, right? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay. But first, I'd like to ask, where was his parents at? Why is he running around, right, in the city at that age, first of all, not to make an excuse for what we seen? Why is he running around unchaperoned or unsupervised, without somebody, at least understanding and knowing his whereabouts first, right? Uh, I come from a broken home and I had been through a lot with my mom. However, one of her things that she always did was she came to find me before them street lights came on. And she came to find me when her intuitive state kicked in. Okay. And sometimes she found me right before I was getting ready to do something that could have put me inside a juvenile hall. Right. And then she came and rained that belt down. Right. Like the rod of the Bible, biblical scripture. Yeah. Right. And looking back on that, I appreciated that because it spared me from uh, a lot of things that could have cost me my life. Um, you know, y'all been kids once, so you understand where I'm going with this. Uh, Now back to what my friend asked me about. How would I explain that to my child that age, at a young age, around the circumstances, the footage we seen? And I slept on it. I slept on it. I slept on it. You know, and I'm still thinking, like, I mean, how do we explain to a child where they're not traumatized when they see a police officer? So then I came up with this. Somehow, some way, we all wear uniforms, right? Let's take Los Angeles for instance. You got Crips, you got Bloods, right? You got skinheads, white supremacists, right? And they all wear a uniform, right? Crips, they wear the blue rag, right? I'm quite sure there's some people in the world that has had traumatic experiences from the blue rag, right? I'm quite sure there's people who've had traumatic experiences from the red rag, right? And obviously, people have had traumatic experiences from the shield, okay? All are institutions, I would call them, all wear a uniform. Now, let's strip the uniforms off all of them. The skinhead, the white supremacists, the Klansmen, right? And you take that uniform off that individual, and now they're just beings, simple human beings, right? So that's how you explain that. They're human, right? Somebody made a decision to do something, right? The difference between the two or the three is one of them has absolute power, right? They connected, right? We not connected. We don't got no system, first of all. And that's how you explain that to them. They're privileged. The reason they're able to do certain things is because they're privileged, right? This is a human being that's actually privileged to do some things that you and I, in our uniform, we're not able to do, right? So now, what do you teach your child? You teach them to strive to become privileged, right? You teach them to unify within their community, right? And don't tear the community down, but to build inside of our community. You know, it's a lot going on, man. And, you know, and we have to attach ourselves to like-minded individuals, right? I no longer choose to, you know, and that's not even the gang thing. It's not the gang thing that I'm running from, right? Because I won't ever forget where I came from. But you got to be like-minded, man. We're trying to go get this bag, man, right? We're trying to get this money, man. We're trying to get these businesses started, man, right? We're trying to put our kids through school, take care of our mothers, our spouses, insurance, car insurance, you know, networking, and just getting in to the scheme of things, man, so we can redo our past for a brighter future, right? And you say, how do you redo the past, right? Well, things that I did in the past, I go back mentally and I look at those things. I look at those things, man. I look at those things and I embrace them. I don't like a lot of the stuff I see, but I embrace them. And I embrace them. And the reason I embrace them is because it helps me to change. You know, I go back and I look, I say, man, you know, I could have did that a little better. Well, I could have did that a whole lot better, right? As you can see, Carl Briggs, 73 Live. I'm putting blood, sweat, and tears into my show, right? This is not a gimmick, right? I'm changing my whole future by focusing in on my legacy, right? Focusing in on my change, you know. And one of the things I regret is not walking with my children because of my psychosis, right? Because of my own psychosis, the uniform that I once wore, right? Right? My behavior hasn't always been a good one. A lot of y'all know me. A lot of my fans know me, you know. And before, people wouldn't even want me to come around, right? And so anybody's eligible and capable of changing. You're capable of changing, right? And I believe that. You know, I don't believe that all cops are bad. The majority is, though, because they cater to the loyalty of the shield, right? Because they're privileged. They're privileged, right? And I want to ask the question: how many of y'all done lied for y'all circle, right? How many of y'all done covered up things for y'all circle, right? I know I have, right? I have, right? That's how the game go. Now, what you do need to tell your children is don't reproject none of that, right? And I remember a friend a few days ago, we was in a business meeting. He was talking to somebody very important. He said, why don't we have a platform where kids can go and just see some positive things, right? You know, because social media is just so negative, right? And it's just it's negative. So when you turn the phone on, you're either gonna see something positive or negative or in between, right? And I just believe it's inappropriate, and he believes it's inappropriate for children to have to even go through that, you know, right? You know, Nobody talks about going to the library no more, right? Walking with your kids. You got to walk with them. It's like you walk with them gangs, your buddies, right? Right? You walk up in them clubs every Friday night, walking with people you don't even know. You got to walk with your kids, right? Because it's hands-on training, right? And then to doctrinate your kids under the school of thought that you have, this a positive and intellectual one, then your child will reflect that. You can't just tell your kids something intellectual and expect them to act it out. It has to be an action of, I'm going to walk with you and show you. So here, let me take your hand, right? Here, let me take your hand. Let me show you how to turn the other cheek. And there's situations will arrive, and it's all in what you do in that moment. Some people don't even pay attention that their kids may be watching them. Let me show you, for instance, you're driving, right? You got the music up, and somebody cuts you off in traffic. And next thing you know, you flip them the birdie. And your kid's sitting in the back seat like, wow, oh, that's how that go. Right? Actions. It's all based on your actions. It's all based on your conversation, right? Let me show you. You sitting there and you smoking Newports back to back. Hey, Michael, son, I don't ever want to see you smoke this stuff. And he's looking like, huh? That you smoking? Watch this. Son, you need to read. These books is imperative. But he ain't never seen you pick up a book. You need to go to school. And you don't even got a diploma. You have to walk with them. So if you expect your kids to go to school, you most definitely have to go to school. Or have accolade to prove that you went to school. Right? That's action. They see, all right, he ain't just talking. Right? You tell your kid not to be nonviolent, and then you, in turn, they see you rolling around the liquor store fighting somebody to cut you off. Right? That is the true way to change the things that our kids intake and what they actually see. We have to, and then all is going on, man. It's just so much. There's so much in the world going on. That's why I don't like to really watch the news. I kind of go on the internet and scan things to topics, and then I process them and think about them and see if I have too shared in that experience. Some things I don't touch. And the reason some things I don't touch is because it's not even worth talking about. That's another thing. We got to stop talking about stuff that's not even worth talking about. I believe that this subject is a good subject to talk about because those cops, they were totally out of line, right? And the way people create situations when all that screaming, everybody needed to remain calm. The little boy was hysterical. Nobody even checked. For one, that the officers didn't even try to call or check to see if the child had mental health issues. First of all, who's to say he hadn't ran away from a mental health facility, right? I'm just, or what his mental health status is, and was he intoxicated, or did he come from a broken home? Was he homeless? It was a lot of misappropriated empathies, I would call them, right? Right? Because we have to use wisdom, especially when you got that shield. You're in a position of a person that should exercise wisdom, which would be expectation on my part. However, you took an oath to serve the community, right? And a friend told me versus a person with a red rag, he took an oath to destroy the community, right? Those are two different oaths, right? You got one saying good. Other one say, I want to be good, and I think I'm doing good, but in essence, it's bad, right? So how do you judge that? I got to strip that uniform off y'all because then it would be from a subjective form. And I don't want to approach it from a subjective, but more of an objective understanding that there is something going on, something that's taking place. And how do I invest my energy? How do I invest my energy? Right? I have to invest my energy with calm, right? And stay focused, because there's so many things, and the enemy has revealed his face so many times to me, and I fell right for that trap, you know. And I'm ready I'm ready for solution. And the bottom line is I just have to stay focused. I understand things are going on around me, but the people that I surround me, we are like-minded, and we will invest in our youth. One of the things that I need uh, to face is the fact I dropped the ball with my children, you know, in and out of the place, the joint, you know, and I wasn't responding. I had no idea. I had to learn these things, right? So I'm not judging people who make mistakes, because if you start pointing the finger at people who make mistakes, then you must go inside yourself and tell yourself, am I a perfect person? And if you say you are, then hey, you know, to each his own. But I can tell you right now, I am far from perfect, right? I work to become a better person, and that's the whole thing. So, with that said, I hope tonight, Night Talk, we touched on some ground that we all can work on. If I said anything that was offensive or you can't live on, it truly came from me. But if I said something that you can grow from, it's from something higher than myself. Everybody know me. And I try to talk about things that are responded. That's why my show is called Carl Briggs 73 Live, Street Psychology 101. And the thing it's the psyche of it, right? Or our mentality, or our mental, right? It all starts right here. This is where the imagination is. This is where our investments come from, our success, our failures, everything. It starts right here, right? The battle of me, right? Rapper X Rated, in his latest video called Autodidactic, he says that I'm too busy beating me to be concerned with beating you. He said, I'm too busy beating me to be concerned in beating you. And you gotta ask yourself, what did he mean by that? Shit. My community of self, this community inside here, it's a battle. It's a battle to become a good person, and try to keep that balance, right? Because you're not perfect, but to be disciplined, right? So while I'm trying to beat you and be concerned about your demons and your battles, I need to be focused in on my battles and my demons, right? So focus in on your household, focus in on your children and help them with their battles. We can't worry about everybody else's battles and demons, right? Because if everybody focused in on their battles and their demons, I believe when they came outside the house, the world would be much peaceful. So focus in on your own personal demons. Stop casting out and complaining about what somebody else is doing, because while we worried about what somebody else is doing, we fail itself. So with that said, fans, good night. Have a beautiful night, and God bless.